So we're going to start driving off, and while we're driving along we're just going to talk about appropriate gaps from cars in front of you, vehicles and so on, and the space we're giving them. So I'm sure you would have been told off your instructor 2-second gap is what you're after. We're going to do a right turn here, by the way. That's in normal dry conditions from you and the car in front of you. That gap can be a bit bigger, it doesn't have to be that's the minimum we're talking about there, by the way. So if you're behind a bus, you want a bit more of a gap. The reason you want more of a gap is so you can see things. So the car's in front of you, you've got a 2-second gap. You can see quite clearly around it. You know, you've got your space, so if it slows down, it's easy to stop. If it's wet, it doubles to 4 seconds. If it's snowing, it's 10 times as much. But it's measuring that gap and being sensible. So while we're driving along here, the most... Just stop there a second, just turn in. I can see. Yeah. So, measuring a gap in front of you. Just say that the vehicle ahead of you goes past a stationary object like a lamp post or a tree. You say something like 0, 1, 2, and so on. That's a 2-second gap. And if you can get 2 seconds in before you pass the same object that you picked, then that's your 2-second gap, and that's a minimum. But sometimes you need more than that, because like I say, the bigger the gap, the safer it is, the more you can see. And I've given the example of a bus. If we get something large in front of us, you need to be able to see what's outside and what's coming. And also, if you get too close behind them, they can't see you, which can be dangerous as also, because they might want to turn. At the moment, I've got a car in front of me, a black one. It's a nice, I reckon, about a 2.5 second gap. There's a large vehicle they might pull out, so I'm just waiting patiently. And then we'll go left at the roundabout. So the gap now, as I'm coming up to traffic, obviously it's not going to be 2 seconds, but you should be able to see his tyres on the road when you're stopping. If you can't see his 2 tyres when you're stopping, you're up his bumper. And the risk is you're going to possibly slip off your clutch by accident and shunt into him, forward shunt, or you're going to, or he could roll back and drive into you. You know, so keep the space if you're behind cars. So like I was then, make sure you see his 2 back tyres on the road. So they call it 3 T's, 2 tyres and tarmac. If you're stopping and you can't see his tyres, you can just about see his rest plate, then you're too close. So it's like here now, we're just going to do a left turn. As we're turning left, there's a car in front of us, and as it goes past the lamp post, I'll measure the gap so you can see where it is in real time. So he goes past the lamp post with the white sign on, and I go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5 seconds there. And we're doing 30 miles an hour, so it's a nice gap. And it doesn't have to be the minimum gap. The bigger the gap, the more you can see. As long as you're at a reasonable speed, there's no point in trying to catch up with the car in front of you if you're doing a good speed, because all you're going to do is see the back of his car. You might as well keep a bit of a space and see the road ahead, so it's clearer. You can see more hazards approaching the side then. And also the danger is if you're close to him all the time, you're going to be constantly tapping the brake, which isn't nice for other people who are in the car with you. So I've pulled out. There's a silver car in front of me. It's pulled off reasonably well. I'll measure it again. It goes past them red bushes. 0, 1, 2, just over 2 seconds between now and the silver car at the moment. Now that silver car is quite close behind that van, so he's not going to see as much. but he really wants to drop back because he can see what's coming, because that van might pull over. So if we use it as an example, if that's a bus, he can see the bus stops, but if you're that close behind a large vehicle, you're not going to see the bus stops, so you're relying on that bus braking. I'm keeping my space from the cyclists because it's difficult to overtake because the road's narrow. And the same thing, keep a 2-second gap minimum. If you're having to slow down because they can't go so fast, then you need to go down a gear. You don't want to be up the back end of a bicyclist. He's going to go round potholes. So this car's just pulled out here and I'm keeping my gap again. Keeping a nice gap. Make it easy on yourself. And I know I'm repeating it time and time again, but you'd be surprised the amount of people who are driving around and they're right up the back end of someone on a faster road. That gap's still got to stay there, and the faster you go, the bigger the space becomes. So at the moment I'm travelling around in an area that's got 30 miles an hour and keep a nice space, make it nice and easy. Same again as I'm slowing down, and make sure I'm getting free T's. So as we go onto a faster road, the space will develop to a bigger gap. But if you keep a small space, that 2-second gap's suddenly gone to 1 second or half a second. And if you're on the motorway, they call it tailgating. Well, you know, it's still called tailgating everywhere else, but it stands out more on the motorway because people are in straight lines and they're going at a fast speed, so you can see it easier. And I'm sure as a learner you've come across loads of people right behind you, and it's quite intimidating. Last thing you want to do is get done for tailgating, because it's illegal. So we're just going to follow the road ahead. We're slowing down for traffic. I'm keeping that 3 T's gap again. So as I pull out ahead of us, the speed limit's going to 70 miles an hour. That's speed limit on the dual carriageway. So even though the traffic's building up slowly, I'm still letting the gap develop. So at the moment I'm doing 40 miles an hour. So as we go past that yellow flag, 0, 1, 2, 3 second gap. There's no point in being close. You're just making a hazard for yourself. And like I say, the faster you go, the bigger the gap. So what you sometimes see on motorways is the 2 white arrows and paint on the ground. They give you that space you keep between cars. That's at 70 miles an hour. So we're just going to follow the road ahead here, this bit, and I'm keeping my space from the red car. That black car's been a bit cheeky pulling out in a small gap there, but people do that sometimes. That's their choice. You know, it's a risk they've got to take. But if you look at the red car and the white car, they're quite close together. It's too small. If that white car brakes, the red car's got to brake hard to avoid hitting the back of him. I reckon there's about half a second gap there, maybe less. You can see it quite clearly. They're quite close. The speed limit's 40 miles an hour. I'm doing 40. They're doing the same speed, but that red one's way too close for your own comfort. And people forget that you need a gap because the car in front of you can do something unpredictable. And if someone pulls out into your space, you just check your mirror, ease off the gas, and let that gap develop again. Just keep reminding yourself that keep this gap is safe. So I'll probably say gap about 100 times then. I hope Hope it kind of drums it in, makes it a bit easy for people to remember, because that's what it was, about keeping that safe distance. Take care, safe driving, and good luck with your driving lessons.